Hi there, my name is Gabriel, and over this presentation, our group is going to be discussing why renewable energy should not be aggressively subsidized in the US. Over the past few decades, we have observed that the renewable energy sector is now competitive with the fossil fuel industry and is therefore self-sufficient. We've also seen that the US return on investment remains at a low compared to fossil fuels, and that private interests often obstruct the mission for renewable progress, such as in the Solyndra scandal. I'm going to swing it over to Natalie now.
Hi, I'm Natalie, and I'm going to explain why renewable energies are already competitive with fossil fuels. According to a report by the International Renewable Energy Agency, costs for generating renewable energies have decreased significantly over the past decade. The global weighted average cost of electricity generated by bioenergy, hydropower, geothermal, onshore, and offshore wind were all within the fossil fuel cost range of between $0.049 and $0.174 per kilowatt hour. The Renewable Power Generation Cost 2018 report reveals that onshore wind and solar PV are set by 2020 to consistently offer a less expensive source of new electricity than the least cost fossil fuel alternative without financial assistance. Out of the new projects commissioned in 2020, 77% of the onshore wind and 83% of the utility scale solar PV projects have electricity prices that are lower than the cheapest fossil fuel fired power generation option. Additionally, forecasts based on the Energy Information Administration's annual energy outlook show increased solar and wind generation even with the current phase down of tax credits. Wind and solar generation together are expected to supply more power in 2050 than either coal or nuclear power, despite their subsidies already being decreased substantially. The value of the production tax credit for wind energy has been phased down in the past 3 years by 60%, and the investment tax credit applied to qualifying solar facilities has also been decreased from 26% to 10% by 2022. Despite these significant decreases in subsidies, the renewable industry is expected to have massive growth. The total share of renewable energy generation is projected to increase from the current 18% to 31% in 2050, even while factoring in the decreases in investment.
Hi, my name is Jacob, and I'm going to continue building on the argument that renewable subsidies are a poor investment for this nation due to their massive expense and their now competitive pricing. The continued subsidies for renewables is not an efficient form of energy from an energy production standpoint, as it no longer offers the initial benefits of reducing the cost curve for installing these expensive energy renewables and their infrastructure. A University of Texas study projects the amount of subsidies the United States paid for in 2019 for each megawatt hour of energy by source. $0.50 for coal, $2 for gas and oil, $57 for wind, and $320 for solar. These subsidies will cover anywhere from 30 to 60% of the cost of these wholesale produced energy prices. While this kind of reduction was vital to get this initial cost curve of wind and solar and other expensive renewable sources down, now that these prices are competitive with those of gas and oil, it is no longer beneficial, and paying $11 billion for these subsidies without that kind of benefit does not make financial sense for the United States. The subsidies have done their job. It's time for the free markets to react.
Hello, my name is Michael, and I will briefly discuss why these subsidies tend to be economically wasteful. As stated in the previous slide, renewable energy costs are already projected to offer less expensive sources of electricity, even without these subsidies. So just to give you a little background information, in 2010 and 2013, renewable energy subsidies in the United States totaled $15.5 billion per year, respectively. Within those same years, renewable energy research and development spending only amounted to $850 million in federal funding. So if we take a look at the graph to the right, visually we can see just how relatively little these subsidies go towards research and development, with the far right graph representing research and development spending compared to the other categories on the left. As you can see, it's a very relatively small amount. And of course, things got dramatically worse in 2016 due to certain provisions of the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act expiring, which further reduced research and development funding from the government to a total of $456 million. Essentially, what this means is that most of these subsidies do not accelerate or even encourage the development of cleaner, more efficient technologies, but rather simply subsidize expensive, inefficient technology that has yet to meet demand. And the results are quite evident. If we take a look at this next graph here, we can see that despite these massive investments, according to a report by the U.S. Energy Information Administration, only 11% of the total energy consumed in the entire U.S. is sourced from renewable energy. So one must ask if subsidizing these companies is the most economically efficient strategy to use when tackling the renewable energy problems the United States faces. Now I will pass it to Javier.
Hey guys, my name is Javier, and I'll discuss the failure of a renewable energy company called Solyndra. Its decline occurred between 2008 and 2012 during Obama's presidency. This economic debacle is a strong example of why the US government shouldn't aggressively subsidize renewable energy. The executives of the solar panel company took advantage of the money it was given. The company got a $535 million federal loan from taxpayer and stimulus money. It misled the energy department, provided inaccurate info, and made its sales contracts good-looking. While in the process of getting the loan, the company projected to the government it would earn over $1 billion sales in the next couple years. The company was supposed to help create jobs and rely less on foreign oil. However, over 1,000 lost their jobs. So it's not prudent to aggressively subsidize renewable energy given the unpredictable nature of renewable energy companies like Solyndra and uncertain progress that may or may not result from them. The price of polysilicon fell, installation costs weren't too appealing, firms in China were crowding American ones on the market of solar panels, and natural gas prices fell. Solyndra ended up filing for bankruptcy. Economic failure of a renewable energy company doesn't make other green energy companies look as attractive. I got this info from articles in the Washington Post and the Atlantic. How can other renewable energy companies prosper if Solyndra couldn't? Private interests of mainly executives, like in this example, certainly get in the way of innovation and progress in renewable energy.
Thank you for listening to our presentation on why renewable energy should not be aggressively subsidized.